Hi, and welcome to On the Couch, Conversations with Brenda Porter. Please take the time to like us, subscribe, and comment below. Today's guest is Jen Harper. Jen is one of those many talented people. She not only has a career as an actor, she's a licensed medical doctor and practices occupational correctional medicine in the Atlanta area. She graduated from Spelman, Morehouse School of Medicine, Emory Medical School. She has been acting for many years and brings a wealth of talent and knowledge to our conversation today. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you, Brenda Porter. Thank you so much.
You are not only talented and gifted as an actress, you also are a medical professional. You know, Dr. Ken became the big sensation because he was a medical doctor and an actor. But you've been doing that for years. How do you handle two professions? I mean, two careers.
So, over the time that I've been doing this, and I've been doing this since before medical school, stopped for a minute, went to medical school, came out, and picked up where I left off. So it's really kind of, I guess this is really what I'm supposed to be doing. My mother looked at me going to medical school as an aberration, but I'm sort of back on course in her eyes now, but she never intended for me to go into medicine. My father was, whatever. But when I was going through Spelman, it was a wonderful woman who was a Rhodes Scholar, Spelman student, senior to me, but she gave I don't know if it was like a work day student, let's learn about occupations that you could go into. And at that time, I was very much a dancer. As a matter of fact, my senior year, the Ailey Company choreographed my senior performance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, that was a whole nother life for me. But I had these two things that I did. One was the sciences and the other one was dance and the arts. And I remember talking to her, Dr. Ginger Floyd. She's still around now. And I don't know if she'll remember this, but I was like, I know I've got to go into medicine. I just don't know how I'm going to make the two work. She looked at me and she said, you need to know something, young lady. You can make medicine do whatever you want it to do. And that struck my heart. It struck my soul. And it wasn't because it resonated with me. It was because I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. She was letting me know that the profession is bendable, is malleable to your needs. We don't learn that as we're matriculating through as students and then as residents, because medicine is it's painted to be very rigid with limits. So I, got on my own treadmill as far as medicine was concerned and realized that doing what I thought I wanted to do in medicine, which was to go into GYN surgery, was way above my pay grade. Not my abilities, but my energies. So when I came out of residency, hanging out with some folks who were filming that we all know and love, and I could just feel my ancestors say, this is where you're supposed to be. And from that point on, the world of acting opened up for me. I didn't have to work hard. I just took one step in faith and God took 10 in my direction. Along with that, medicine was bending and molding to allow me to do those things. So I've always done both things. And now at this point in my life, when it seems that I need more time to focus on my acting career, my medical career is a blessing. I have the time to be on set. I have a staff of 10 wonderful nurses who support and back me. They require very little of my physical presence. Thank God for telemedicine. It works together for the good of everybody. I get to do quality medical care for folks that I know because I do correctional medicine and occupational medicine. And folks that I know would never have an opportunity to meet a caring physician such as myself. So it is a blessing to have that kind of a job, day job. And it's a blessing to be able to pursue the things that evidently my mother told me I was brought here to do. So that's how I balance. God is in control, and I just keep one foot in front of the other every day. That's all I do. When I have to, as we say in South Carolina, when I have to meaning go right or left when you're getting the mule going. When I have to do that, I do that, and I just thank God for the energy to keep doing it. Girl, when we were trying to run the practice, that was a third job. It was another job. And we all, okay, let's get this. All right. So you just make it all happen. I don't know how I balance it, but I do know I feel blessed to be able to do both things. That's all I can say.
You mentioned the practice, and that was really, for me, a wonderful a time, because I have done theater forever, but I haven't done a lot of film. And so to be in the room with you and Donna and to soak up what you had and add to what I already knew about acting from theater, it was really a wonderful. So I want to thank you and Donna for.
But I say thank you to you because my theater is not what I wished that it had been. So when you would come in and bring all of the theater with you, I was like, this is wonderful. I call it my second internship. I spent time in England thinking that I needed theatrical training. And I will die thinking that I need more theatrical training, more theatrical work. And that was a wonderful time for me. Those 2 years that I was there, it was wonderful. But any opportunity, when people say, well, why do you understudy? Y'all don't understand. That's like an internship for me. I am working and learning the boards. I'm learning from different perspectives, different directors. You can't pay for that kind of learning. So with you in the room, I say thank you for all of the things that you've shared. It's been amazing. We had a good time. Donna was fantastic. The students that were there were fantastic. And look at some of them now. Look at the work they're doing. We made an impact.
The world has become virtual, auditions and everything. How has that affected you? How do you feel about that?
I'm a geek. You know that about me.
Right.
I'm a sci-fi nut. I've been living for this time. When back in the 70s and 80s, I felt this would come. Not that I'm a Nostradamus, but I felt that this needed to happen every single time I gassed up my truck to drive to Wilmington for an audition. I was like, no, there's a better way to do this. So I have always been kind of, Lord, let this happen. Let this come into being. So for me, this is the best time. This is the time where we can explore creativity. Nothing about videotaping auditions is set in stone yet. We have certain studios and certain casting directors that tell you how they want this and how blah, 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 but nothing is set in stone. And so as you start expanding your audition world and seeing what they want from you and what the other one doesn't want, and what you go, okay, this is like the Wild Wild West. It's still up to us to be as creative as we want to be, and I'm loving the time. I'm loving this time. The pandemic, it has hurt so many of us, from losses, from the reality. We are impotent to change very much of our circumstances, and we were subjugated to a madman in the White House. And we had to G and ha with all of that. You know, it was a horrible, horrible time. Again, I'm still looking on the silver lining in that. I dreamed about a time when the world would press pause for a year. And we got that. We pressed pause.
So you're the reason this happened.
Not the reason. But I would, you know, I would look at those little vacations at the week, the 10 days, the holiday weekend, like we have those 3 or 4 day weekends. That ain't enough. I need a year. It's time. I need a month to just blow off all the craziness that I just got through dealing with. And we all have crazy things that happen in our world. And now we have even more crazy things because there's things happening in other folks' worlds. Like we got the shootouts on the expressway. We've got, and just this thing that happened with the guy spitting on the athlete at the basketball game.
Jen, I think we need that human connection to be normal, to be normal.
Yes.
And we don't have it. And so we are in this mentally altered state and people
unbalanced.
Are on edge. We're unbalanced. Exactly. We are on edge. And so there's killings.
I think the aggression, the animalistic behavior that we are all demonstrating now is fed by some interesting things that, you know, that's another conversation. But in terms of our associations, what we see, our input from the television, there is no accident that we are on Fast and Furious 9 and we got folks drifting on the expressways and in the intersections and shutting down roads, trying to Tokyo drift. There's no accident to that. So our environment is definitely playing a role in what we see us do, aggression. I don't know where the end is. I don't know if the master himself is going to have to come down here and end this, or if we, as sensing, empathetic human beings, will get to that place where we can say, okay, look, you know, I see Uncle Joe on TV trying to do his best. Our president, I see him trying to do his best. You know, he's one of maybe 5 who have the power and know where to direct the power, the energy of that power. He is trying. Now, more of us need to wake up to that place. It's a bad time. Folks are being put out. It's a rough time. People don't have jobs. People who had jobs don't want the jobs because they want better income. So, you know, everybody's doing their own corporation now, which is a wonderful thing, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. So people are branching out, trying to be responsible for themselves. But there's a whole nother faction of people who have no orientation to how to do that. No sense of what, I don't know. It's a bad time. It's a bad time. So this pandemic for me, it was a moment of pause, a moment to observe, a moment to see how I can have an impact. And I feel that happening in me. I'm sure that I am praying and discovering those things. But the same token, not much about my medical schedule changed. I still had the same number of inmates to take care of, the same number of patients who were getting hurt on the job. So that didn't really change. The stress of a mask on your face, the stress of having to relate to someone and tell them what's going on with them and they don't understand what you're saying because they can't hear you. So, you know, we've all developed some extremely good diction. Trying to get past this mask thing that we have in between us. Again, I still believe all things work together for good. So as bad as it's been, we will come out of this better as a human race, as individuals, more empathetic. I do. I think I think good things are happening for us.
I certainly hope so. This whole year and being locked up and shut down has made us take a look at racial issues. I know in the theater world, we have had lots of conversations,
Yeah.
and it's not enough to just have conversations. But it's
Okay.
kind of like, you go to therapy, you got to talk through it first. And then you got to go, okay, now we've talked about it enough. What are you going to do about it to
Let's
change?
act on it. Mhm.
Yes.
This thing called diversity that everybody's pushing, all of a sudden the past year and a half, um, is a good thing in the interest of diversity. But we have corporations that have chairmen of diversity.
Mm-hmm.
We have committees on diversity. I don't know how you actuate that. Do you know what I'm saying? I know the concept of diversity, but how do you put that into action? You see what I'm saying? Does it become, we have token across the board? I got to have a Japanese, Chinese, Black, Indian. How do you actuate diversity? It's just a question that I have had for years recently, not a lot of years, but some time. And people have talked to me about diversity. And I have no idea how you actuate diversity. I don't know how you do that. I don't know, do you have every theater in the city say, we are wedded to doing one Black show every year, one Native American show every year? Do we just try to do colorblind casting for real, right? And just do the shows that we would normally see put up, but with colorblind casting? I, I don't know. How do you actuate diversity? It's an interesting dilemma.
That's a very interesting question because you can put people and you can continue to look for um, what's not in the room and try to add it. Okay, so we have a group of women. Who's not in the room? Men aren't in the room. Let's put a man in. These women are all 20. We don't have somebody that's 50. Let's put them in the room. And you can continue to do that. That room will get pretty full after a while because there's always somebody that's not
It's
in
not
that room.
in the room.
Yeah.
Exactly. And who is the enforcer of that?
Good question.
Who is the one that reminds you, wait a minute, we don't have this group in here? Again, how do you actuate diversity? That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
And I understand the concept of colorblind casting, but I think that there are some shows that just do not support that. And I think that that's more so, as an African American, I kind of feel like I might be a little upset if you had, let's say Raising in the Sun, because everybody knows it.
I was going there. Yeah.
Yeah, if Mama was white and Ruth was black and Big Brother was, I'd be like, it's not telling
That
the
ain't working.
story.
Because there you have it. The story has to be told, and the story is based on the races of each one of those characters. You're right. You're right. So I don't know, but that will be the dilemma for theater moving forward, and that's everywhere. I don't know how they're going to deal with that. I don't know. I look at the most current person, Billy Porter. Billy Porter pushed his envelope to where he didn't have to kick the door down. He just kept pushing at the door. And finally, they just opened it wide. Come on in here, bring all your stuff with you because you're fabulous. Do you see what I'm saying? Is that what it takes to maintain that kind of diversity, that energy? I ain't got Billy Porter energy. I know that. But I'm just saying, is that what it takes? I adore Billy Porter and his talent and his story and his struggle. I adore all of that and admire that he was able to come out on the other side of that. And I don't know if you heard his most recent story, but he came out saying that he was HIV positive, and that was a part of his life he hid. even from his mother, which is powerful to hear, because he's been through everything else, everything.
Yes.
But I don't know. And oh, by the way, that's still a pandemic. It's still with us. So I don't know. But moving forward, I expect the science fiction kid that I am, I expect theater to do wonderful things here and other places, more so in Atlanta, because there's a different energy and a different spirit in Atlanta, and with or without the Kenny Leons and the Carol Mitchell, and with or without those spirits, there's still an energy here that I think Atlanta is going to be showing out in just a short amount of time, as far as stage is concerned.
I think you're right, because everybody came here for film. Everybody's coming here for film. They're bringing the talent, they're bringing the whatever. And I see things changing here theatrically already,
Mm-hmm.
in New York, it used to be that everybody would go to New York, you study, and you try to get on Broadway, you do your thing, or you try to get in your soap operas or your whatever. People go to California, they're trying to do, and they study, but people weren't studying here, but now people are studying. People are studying, they're taking classes, they're growing. And I really think that that's going to make a difference
I
in,
think so.
I and I look at you like you have a manager now. Donna has a manager. Lots of people have managers. Managers weren't needed in Atlanta for a long time. What do you need a manager for?
Well, you know why? For so many years, agents did the job of a manager for so many years. From the beginning, I'm going all the way back from when I started. They did the job of managers, and I saw it firsthand. And then I saw it switch because the agents got too busy with too many people in their corral.
Okay.
And they only had time to put bodies in slots. Now, managers are necessary.
Okay.
Managers are necessary, all right? And they are worth their weight in gold, because no agent has the time to do that. Kathy Hardigree retired a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of those who did the job of a manager. She would sit and talk to you. What do you see yourself doing? Why are you in this business? What makes you different? Oh, that was Kathy. Everybody couldn't handle how edgy she was. I've always welcomed and appreciated her honesty, her curtness, her directness, because we got to have that, because the business is direct. There ain't nothing cute, nothing assuaged about how we have to interact and deal with this business called film and television. So she was ahead of her time, but she was the last of those who really behaved as a manager as well as an agent. Hey, we don't have that anymore. We're just kind of out here. You got to have somebody that can do the maneuvering. You can't do the maneuvering for yourself. Ted Borden said this to me a long time ago. Jen, you can't support yourself. You can't promote yourself. You can't. And that was another agent that acted like a manager. He said, that's what I'm for. You can't do that for yourself. I still believe that. I am not the one. Even though we're in the age of influencers on social media, blah, 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 blah. But you still need that long arm, directing where that endpoint is.
New York shut down for the pandemic, and so did LA. Pretty much, both of them pretty much shut down. And I have to credit Tyler Perry for this. He was like, no, we're going to keep going. And he did his own, this is what we're doing, and this is the COVID protocol. And people went, well, if he can do it, then we can do it. And Atlanta started, where every place else was not filming, Atlanta was still filming.
Yeah, we did. We we continued.
We,
And that was a beautiful thing. That was a beautiful thing. I was blessed to do 3 projects last year.
wow.
Started in July, picked up again in September, another one, and then picked up the last one in November. So I was very blessed, but this is Atlanta. And again, there's a whole different energy, whole different light here, you know, and we've learned to press through the heat. We've learned to press through the racism. There's so many things that we have done in spite of horrible conditions, but we get it done. So why wouldn't we be the place where they keep filming?
But you know what
Making it work.
I'm a little afraid that Governor Kemp, I probably shouldn't say it, but Governor Kemp is going to end up hurting us because of his laws. I mean, you know, Hollywood will pull back and withdraw for someplace for political reasons in a minute. And
in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I that's interesting you should say that, because I feel the same way until I spoke with a transplant from LA to Atlanta, who is pretty big. He's big in crew, but very astute. He said, do you realize most of us have picked up and moved our families here? We ain't leaving. We ain't leaving. We understand the lifestyle we can have here and the cost of living being so much different and so much better than it was in LA. We ain't going nowhere. So don't fret about that. That is what you just said is also my concern, because people from LA are empaths, all right, for a cause. And if you cross the cause, I gotta go, you know. But the more level-headed of those, I think will not do that. I think we'll stay and press. And it's the ones that stay and press will be the thing that changes Georgia to all blue and not purple. Understood? All blue, you know, but we got to keep that here. I worry about it all the time. Every time I hear him do it, I'm like, oh Lord Jesus. Okay. But we need to keep pressing forward. We know what we have to do. In spite of the new election laws, we know what we got to do. We got to get the vote out, period. Come hell or high water, we got to get the vote out. There's no sense of right and wrong any longer. We've got to make it mean something else now. It's got to mean more. And it's probably going to end up meaning more as far as economics is concerned. I don't think we're not going to get anybody based on the church or any religious mores, or I don't see the multitude having allegiance to that any longer. I'm still there. You're still there, right? But the multitudes, the ones who should be governed by those things, that went out the door with our ex-president. And no, we don't need to investigate January 6th. We don't need a commission to do that. You really don't, because it's a lot of money. We all saw it. Just go ahead and arrest the culprit.
What's the young rapper who just got arrested for throwing dollar bills at his graduation?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so whether I think he should have or not is beside the point. But for inciting a riot, but Donald Trump didn't incite a riot on
Boom.
6th.
Wasn't that a riot that he incited?
So anyway, yeah.
That poor kid. And you see what that is number one, the audacity of a kid come onto my stage and get his diploma with $10,000 in his pocket. And I don't have it. Yeah. And he had $10,000 to throw away. Yeah. The audacity. That's what that's about. That's not about. No, that wasn't a riot. Those kids, and most of those kids probably needed that little piece of change that they got.
And he
Right?
was giving it back in an odd way, but he was giving it back.
Hey, thank you. And thought he was doing something good from his heart. I just hope nobody, what they did to him, I hope it does not change his heart. Do you know what I'm saying? Because he's got the makings for a mogul in the future of his world as he evolves. Because he knows how to give back. He understands the principles. Right. When you give it, you get it back. So I hope it doesn't change his heart, but that was awful. That was awful.
What projects are you working on now?
None that I can talk about. But I'm doing some good stuff. And the reason I can't is because if I tell, then I'm telling storyline and they're still filming. So I can't. But I'm working on a series with HBO, actually a couple of series. So I'm not complaining. Work is good. You know, I'm always being thankful for being blessed. That's all I can say. We continue to be blessed up in here. We are blessed to be in Atlanta. We had been in Atlanta when we weren't so blessed through those dry times. But, you know, my dearest, dearest friend, Deborah Duke, who always knew the business was coming back here, always, you know, and left too soon to enjoy it. But I feel I'm enjoying some of that for her as well, you know, because it's a good time right now. And more is coming, you know, more and more and more business is coming here. We got studios all over the place. So those, they're not gonna close those just because somebody makes them mad. No, that's not gonna happen.
So if you're working on several different projects, this is a question that I know in theater how to make my character so different from this play to the other play. How do you do that in film? Because film is right there in your face and it's much more of you. How do you do that?
Well, you know, people, I think you couched the question in the term, you know, how do you develop a character? I don't like to call it developing a character because that's what the writer does. I like to say, I'm finding the character.
I like that.
I had to find the character. So in terms of finding the character for me, I have to, whatever script I get, if it's big, complete script or 3 pages, you know, whatever script I get, I have to look at what the writer or director says about the character. Usually that's the breakdown. Then I have to look at what these other people in this script are saying about this character. That helps inform how I impact whoever those people are. And then when you start looking at what is the battle, what is the issue, what are we fighting for, what do you want, those things inform you about the character. So finding the character comes from, you know, doing that little analysis over and over and over again, and then letting it rest, walking away and thinking about it and say, wait a minute, there's something else in there. I just missed it. And then coming back. And I don't know if you ever finish finding. There are things that when I look back at an episode of In the Heat of the Night or at Greenleaf, I'm like, dang, I missed that. That went, I could have done, you know, I think you're always finding and discovering. But I prefer to call it finding. And that search is unending. You know, you let it inform you as much as you can. Then you let the director tell you, take some of that out, put some more in, or whatever. It's not solely on you and your responsibility because it's got to fit into the director's vision, right? So, as we go on that journey to find, you have to learn how to be informed. Now, there's one thing that I have always loved because of this whole training thing that I got in England, because I think British people have such longevity. But every class I took, there was always an undertone of encouraging you to associate whatever the character was you were working on with an animal. And when you do that, because we have the ability to observe animals, and the animal's behavior is never really changed by our observing them. When we are observed, our behavior changes all the time, because that's, but when we're looking at an animal, you can see what the animal does when it's upset, what the animal does when it's happy. If it's a dog, his tail is shaking, whatever. But you see all of those things in the observing. And when you go to relate whatever this character is you're working on, you give it the undergirding of whatever animal you think is closest to that. And it just happens. I mean, that's some fantastic acting right there. Mm-hmm. I saw it over and over and over again. And I was blessed because one of our tutors, of course, was Anthony Hopkins, and he got to talk about how he worked on Hannibal and what was the character, what was the animal that he used. And I don't know if you've seen him talk about it, but this is one example of how brilliant British acting training is. But he said that the character of Hannibal, he imbued with the characteristics of a cobra. And so when Clarice walks into the cell the first time, he's a cobra. He doesn't move. A cobra doesn't move.
Right.
Until you try to charm him, he doesn't move. And then he speaks. And a cobra has a hiss. So he speaks, Clarice. So you see, I feel myself now becoming Hannibal Lecter because I just gave myself permission to become the cobra. So when he gets to the part about I had his liver with some fava beans, that's the snake. But you see what I'm talking about? When you imbue your character with an animal's characteristics. So, that for me was a pearl. Mm. That was a pearl. And when I stay with that, I think those are the best characters I create. Sometimes, life gets in the way and you're like, let me just get these lines out and go about my business. But I mean, truly, when you really, really, I'm working on an audition now that I'm trying to do that with, trying to find what that animal is, and that's probably the hardest part. Long script, but it's probably the hardest part. It's trying to figure out which way I'm going with her. Mm. So, yeah, but that makes it a lot easier when you can identify with something that if it's a giraffe, a rabbit, orangutan, whatever, that's nice little. That's how I come to it.
If you had to put this year into one word, what would it be?
I can't say anything else but blessing. As bad as it's been for everybody, I still have to call it a blessing for even the bad times. There's a passage that I read this morning from the Bible. It's in Psalms. And in essence, I'm going to paraphrase it. How long will I have to wait on you, Lord? I'm tired of waiting on you. Mm-hmm. Even though you have blessed me, I expect to continue to be blessed because I am one of your children. And it's hard right now. I am weary waiting on you, Lord, but I understand that I am blessed. So that's kind of how I look. My one word for this year and a half, blessing. As bad as it's been, and I'm not making light of it. I understand fully the losses and the problems that have come from it. And that's the stuff that angers me as a scientist, that angers me. Some of this stuff didn't have to be. And we need to understand that it ain't over. It ain't over. This is not over. So every intelligent, breathing human being needs to do whatever is necessary to stay safe first, because it ain't over. I don't care what the government says. I don't care what CDC says about it. You don't have to have no. Do what makes logical sense, because it ain't over. I'm not preaching doom, but I am understanding the science. We don't get to control that. All we can do is what we have done. And we've done some amazing things in fighting this. But everybody's running around like it's over. It's post-COVID. It ain't post-COVID. It's just a time to force us, because all of us are tired of being in. I am upset I can't go to the theater and see a show, but it's forcing us to find new ways of making it work. And I'm just going to say, as a scientist, the one take-home lesson from all of this is to understand people are not clean. People are not clean. We had to learn how to be clean this past year. We had to learn how to wash our hands. When, how long, and why. We had to learn that. Okay? So this whole mask thing that, quite honestly, was a very much part of my reality when I was in England in the early 90s. Because we had so many different cultures living in London, and everybody walked on the street with a mask around their face or a bandana, because pollution was so bad. Okay, but it took one day of being out there without a mask, coming home and blowing your nose and seeing the stuff that comes out to say, oh, hell no, while I'm on my way to class, let me time out. So the Oriental culture has already been in that place where they had masks and walked day to day with masks on and rode the subway and the trains. So, I mean, this needs to become a part of our culture. I hate to say this because it really sounds bad, but I really don't think we should be talking about going maskless. I just think we need to be talking about knowing when to put one on. For general purposes, we need to know that when you're out amongst, put a mask on, unless you know all 500 of the people and you have been living with those 500 and you all share all the same bacteria, put a mask on.
But then you can't see how cute I am.
Who the hell cares? It ain't it. Them eyes say a lot. Them eyes say a lot, girl. All you got to do is make them eyes up, honey. The windows of the soul. I envision a time like smallpox and some of the other major viruses that have been devastating to humanity. I do imagine a time when we will overcome coronavirus. But this is not that time. But I'm as sick of masks as anybody else, And because I'm so sick of it, I probably bought every different mask that has come out on the market. Because just looking for that one that's easier to wear, so I don't feel like it's, it's rough.
You and I could continue to talk for.
Oh yeah, forever and ever. Forever and ever.
But thank you, Jen Harper, for taking.
Well, thank you for having me, Brenda Porter.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And for those of you out there, don't forget to like us, comment below, and subscribe. And come back next week when we'll have another fabulous conversation. And meanwhile, keep the conversations going.